Hello, welcome to Run Testers. I'm Nick.
I'm Kieran.
And we've got quite a different video here today. Over the last 7 days, Kieran has run a marathon every day, for no real good reason as far as I can tell. But one of the things you did on this, you used a different shoe each day. Well, the first 6 days anyway, you did 6 different shoes. I'm going to quickly try and do this top of the dome. The Cloudstratus 2,
Yep.
Endorphin Pro 2, Endorphin Speed 2, Saucony Ride 14, Puma Velocity Nitro, and then the Adidas Adizero Adios Pro 2, of all the ones that have at the end, the Adios Pro 2 basically.
Yeah.
And then you went back to a special choice from those 6 for the 7th marathon.
Yeah, I was going to wear the Asics Metaspeed Sky.
Yeah, that is the name. But I guess you figured after 6 days you want to risk your first run in a shoe being a 7th
So
marathon.
it was going to be a 7 shoe test, 7, but I decided to sort of change it up because I just thought, I'd never really run in that, and I just thought on 7 marathon tired legs that might be a bit problematic. So I basically decided to go back to the shoe that stood out overall.
Which we're not going to reveal now, but we will reveal later as the best shoe of those 6. Well, maybe not the best shoe, but the shoe that you wanted to use the most.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. I think we're going to have some other content around this kind of feat Kieran's done, including his experience at the London Marathon. But this is all about shoes. This video. Yeah,
and I think it's safe to say that when I'm doing this, the pace that I ran all of those marathons at was about kind of 4 to 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
My marathon pace at the moment would probably be, if I went all out to do one, might have been like a 3:30 or something, maybe a bit quicker.
Yeah.
So you're talking about self-preservation when you're doing this.
Yeah.
So I guess you're sort of talking about fairly slow, conservative marathons.
Yeah.
So in context of these shoes,
Yeah.
when we're kind of not necessarily looking at what you would wear to go out and do one all-out kind of punchy run, it's a bit more like if you're not sure, you're going to run a marathon, you're not sure what you're going to get in the race.
Yeah.
It might go wrong, it might go right. Which shoe out of these would be best suited to that?
Yeah.
And could you rely on one shoe?
Brilliant. Let's talk shoes. Alright, day one, Monday morning, first shoe was?
So the Cloudstratus 2, obviously kind of super, this is their kind of max cushion shoe. It's kind of pitched also as a kind of speed shoe. It's like a training partner to a sort of faster marathon shoe from the On range. Basically on day one, when I first went out, I was like, oh, happy days, this is perfect. It's just enough, there's enough cushioning, there's enough kind of firmness, which I like. And it just was good at kind of rolling through the miles.
Yeah.
To get that first marathon done. Towards the end of that run, there was a slight bit of firmness. That kind of impact coming up through the foot, I did feel it. But brilliant for stability.
Yeah.
And I ran some of this on kind of river paths, so it was a little bit off-road, a little bit on tarmac. So that crossover, this shoe performed really well. No, again, when you think about 7 marathons in 7 days, one thing you're going to think about is how this is affecting your toes, how it's feeling again, all around trying to comfort, anything rubbing, anything like that, you're looking for issues that might come up. None of that at all.
Yeah.
So this shoe on day one performed really well. I was very, very happy with it when I came off day one. It done a good job.
Fair enough. So and then day 2, your first bit of carbon?
So on day 2, I've got the Endorphin Pro 2, and then you've obviously got the carbon plate with the Power Run PB.
Yeah.
And so you've got a punchier kind of PB foam, right?
Yeah.
And so the first thing I noticed about this immediately when I went out was kind of that extra spring that you're getting compared to the Stratus 2.
Yeah.
And on that morning, on tired legs, the second day is always a difficult day when you're doing something like this,
Yeah.
because you're knackered.
And it's still a long way to go.
It's still a long way to go. You're not really sure what you're going to get. Your body isn't quite in tune with what you're going to do to it yet. And that foam, I was like, oh my God, this is like a whole chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
And it felt great to have that punch. I could feel it moving me forward in those first sort of 6 miles. So a couple of quick observations early. We're 2 miles in. Saucony Endorphin Pro 2. I mean, the difference in the way these shoes feel underfoot compared to the yesterday's shoe, which was the Cloudstratus 2, it's remarkable. I mean, there's so much softness under here compared, and so much kind of bounce compared to the Stratus 2, which is mad, but good. I needed that. I was a bit worried about putting on the Pro 2 actually this morning, but actually they appear to have been a very, very smart choice. Towards the end, I had a different problem.
Yeah.
Underfoot, it was comfortable.
Oh,
there was no fatigue coming up through. But the stability of this shoe became a factor towards the end, and I started to feel tendons out on the outside of my knees.
Yeah.
I'd feel sort of few tendons in the sort of lower bit of my foot going into the sort of up through into the shin. Some issues around the hips. Now, this is not necessarily the shoe. You're not going to have that if you're in a race and you're only running in it one marathon. But on day 2, when I'm running worse than I am on day 1, I'm stiff. I'm not really moving in a free way, getting slightly on the edges.
Yeah.
The stability of this didn't kind of compensate. It was too loose, basically.
Okay, and that's really interesting because now we can compare it directly to the next day when you put on the Endorphin Speed 2, which is the same shoe but with a nylon plate. And did you think it was performing differently?
And it definitely performed differently. Again, if you think about chalk and cheese, I was so happy to have this one on day 3.
Right.
I don't think if you'd have asked me to put the Pro 2 back on day 3 morning, I would have been happy about that necessarily. I just felt like that would have been a risk. I think my knee tendons would have gone. I'd have got runner's knee, basically. Okay. I think. And this one just has that. It doesn't. It hasn't quite got as big a punch, perhaps, but there's plenty of that kind of big rebound from the foam. But that stability is there.
Yeah.
It gave me the confidence to do good, kind of easy, steady miles. It just ate up that run, basically. On what, again, Wednesday, day 3 is a very, very difficult run.
Yeah.
Very, very comfortable. No foot fatigue, which is what my kind of description for that feeling of the impact coming through.
Yeah.
As you get into the deeper miles of something like that. Again, on road, off road, a little bit of river paths, good comfort, and plenty of room.
Yeah.
So no toe squashing issues, and yeah, it just ran like a dream, really. I was really happy. End of day 3, this was a shoe that at that point I was like, that's top of the class.
Day 4, you went back to one of your trusted favourite shoes, Saucony Ride 14.
I did, and there's a reason this was on day 4, because I've plodded a lot in this shoe.
Yeah.
And I kind of, if you've watched the videos on the channel before, you know that I love plodding in this shoe.
Yeah.
It's like, it is my go-to plodder. And by comparison though,
right.
I knew very early on, really, that this wasn't going to be as good as some of the shoes that I'd run in before.
Okay.
I think I actually put it basically on a par with the Cloudstratus. Right. It was too firm, essentially.
Okay, really? Oh, because day 4 in, just too much.
Day 4, there's just too much of the ground coming through for my liking, and you weren't getting any of that extra kind of sort of help with the legs.
Okay.
Yeah, the fatigue overall from this shoe was very present. As I say, I still love this shoe, and I think if you're going out and doing like 8 to 10 miles,
and you want to go marathons in 4 days.
It's there's other great things about it. Overall the sort of top was super comfortable, and it was really nice to put on in the morning, and it ran well enough. But I think this and the Cloudstratus 2, I put them in the same bracket for those runs.
Now, day 5, really interesting to me that you went for the shoe. It's the Puma Velocity Nitro. We love the shoe. Well, I love the shoe on the channel. It's very cheap. It's very effective. This was the day when, day 5, also Kieran got caught in the worst rainstorm. It was actually near my house. I sort of went, Kieran is a fair bit away from it. Hopefully it won't be raining like this near Kieran. I checked his Instagram stories and he looked like he was drowning in rain.
It was absolutely torrential. My wife had phoned me and said, do you need dry clothes? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, it's drizzle. I turned back, and then all of a sudden I was like, basically like, Forrest Gump, where he's in there and he's like, rain coming from all sides. I was like a mixture of that, and then the bit where Lieutenant Dan is railing at the storm. I'm like, you'll never take this ship. It's like,
a hard day all round, 5th day in, and you went for the cheapest shoe on the test, and a shoe that I think was constantly defied expectations. Did it do it for you on the day?
It did a good job, actually. It did a really good job, and I think I would put this in the bracket of the Ride 14 and the Cloudstratus in terms of the firmness and that foot fatigue later into the race, later or into the run. But I guess that in the beginning, and with there's a little bit more kind of rebound, I guess, from this foam, which helped with the early miles.
Okay.
But again, I wouldn't have put this as my top choice out of all of them. Good comfort, good kind of help in the early miles, a little bit too firm and unforgiving in the latter miles.
But also, I suppose it must be a bonus because this has got a really good outsole, which probably helped on that particular day, given the thing. But did you get waterlogged at all?
It was soaked, absolutely drenched.
Did it hold a lot of water?
It did hold an awful lot of water.
That's good to know.
I mean, it was, you notice that bit where you sort of see it all squelching out. 6 miles further on, you're still squelching water out. So but then we're talking. in the end, I'm running through puddles that are this deep for miles. So it did. But you've got a lot of foam and stuff here that's going to hold it if you get that bit wet. But solid. I would put this as a solid performer. So we're inside the last 2 miles now, and the Puma Velocity Nitros, I have to say, I think they felt almost kind of as sort of firm on the feet towards the end of this in the last sort of 6 miles as the Ride 14s really. They are a little bit softer, you can feel a little bit more squish, but actually you know, the bottom of my foot is feeling a bit more fatigued than it did with the Speed 2. Probably, you know, I guess the Cloudstratus 2 was day one, so I wasn't really feeling that foot fatigue. But there's just for me, it's just a little bit more sinking here. And in these last miles where you just would like a little bit extra sort of energy return, or a little bit of extra bounce, a little bit of extra something in the legs to help you out. It's not quite there with these, but I think it's fair to, all of these are solid. They did a solid job, and we're talking about nuances here. But just a little bit more fatigue in the end for that. And then
I'll always say the Puma is, if you're getting a solid job for like the 30 quid you can get it, that really is a shoe that I think a lot of people should just stick in a rotation just to knock out some miles, basically, save your other shoes. Now, day 6, we're back on the carbon. We're in the Adios. This is actually the second marathon you've run in the Adios Pro 2. Review coming.
It is. I promise.
So how did this go? I mean, it was an interesting idea to put on such a high stack shoe 6 days in.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a baller move. It's like just go.
To get some panicky takes in the morning.
And I was looking down because I had all my shoes rode up, and I was looking down because obviously got the Asics next, and I was thinking, God, this is basically injury going to happen. Very tired legs. Very, very worried about the stability. You know, this is a shoe you look at and you're talking about minimal. This is like getting into a sports car at the end. And I think even against the Pro 2, it's still, it just, you know, it's got that feel of this is a shoe you probably want to be putting on when you're racing one race and going hell for leather. Yeah, I know. I feel a lot of people have talked about the Adidas line in particular, that with this and the Prime X, that if you're not running fast, they've suddenly become very unstable. But when you are running fast, it's better. But yeah, anyway, how do you? And you feel you put it on straight away, and you sort of go like this is, it knows you, it rocks you out a little bit on the side. The truth of it is actually that first couple of miles, I had to run my way into this shoe. It was a little bit difficult. I was a bit worried about how it was going to go with the stability. And then I got moving, and then I felt this, you know, the shoe actually just giving me so much. So on that Saturday, one of the runs that I thought was going to be the worst turned into like an absolute belter.
I definitely noticed different. So we've obviously had chats all week on WhatsApp about what's going on, and I see Kieran's, you know, his mood raising, lowering a bit. And on Saturday, I think the finish line's in sight. You put on a carbon shoe, your time came down. I think you were back just over 4 hours, wasn't it? And you. I don't know, it felt like you knew you were going to do it, and the end it was always like, within the context of a marathon, this was mile 22, when actually it was the 6th marathon,
and I had company, and I ran sort of middle 14, but I ran with someone who was slightly faster, and they pushed the pace a little bit, really. They helped me along, it was useful at the time, but this shoe made that possible, and I needed to have a run where I felt like I was not expending that much energy, or as you know, I felt like I was able to get it done without really too much cost. And I think this shoe absolutely fitted into that bracket. I was very, very surprised at how well I coped, how the stability kind of held up. And I was really pleased that I had this on that day, because I definitely think it got me around that much quicker.
Brilliant.
The gamble paid off, basically, because I got the return that I needed, and I didn't come back with sore knees. So
brilliant. And then, so you ran those 6 shoes. London Marathon was Sunday. You're going to run it. Obviously, you're not going for a PB or anything, but you wanted a shoe that was going to get you through. You ran at a decent trot, so what shoe did you go for in the end?
Well, I didn't go for the Asics. I didn't want to push my luck, having gone carbon plate. So I decided that I'd choose a shoe. And out of the whole week, I think I can put these into some groups to make it easy. These 3, we've got the Cloudstratus 2, Ride 14, and the Velocity Nitro, run in a very similar way, I think. Lot of kind of decent amount of cushioning. This one a little bit more punchy, but towards the end of those miles, all became a little bit too firm, with the ground coming up a little bit too much for the ride. So those go in a group, sort of at the bottom. If there's like a second division, the 2 carbon plates. I think if you can be running well, they give you something of a bounce, and that's extra. And in the right place at the right time, that was nice. The only thing is, on day 2, I was struggling a bit with my form, and I think that would have been a risk. If I'd have gone the whole week in this, I'd have had a problem. I will say, just quickly on the outset, it's a really good sign for how you perform in fatigue at the end of a marathon, that you did run so well on day 6. So if you are worried about your form going at the end of a marathon, the Adios, and you're going all out, the Adios is going to work still. But it's not the one you picked. And in the end, I mean, we talk about this shoe a lot on this channel, and I know some of you might hit us up with the comments, but the Speed 2, it was just a perfect balance of giving you enough kind of cushioning and propulsion that you want, with enough protection through the foot, and stability, crucially on this run, stability. So again, I think if you're going to go and run, well, you're going to put it on an edge, and you're not sure if you're going to sort of PB or you're going to struggle, and you're around the kind of anywhere between like 3.5 to kind of 4.5 or 5. This is a great shoe for marathoning, and reliability is like top draw on on very tired legs. I mean, I ran London I did 3:38.
Yeah, including some faffing.
Including a bit of faffing, it would have been 3:30 something, and it ran like a dream. It was.
Yeah, you were also in a good fresh start, and you were getting pulled along by people running who hadn't done 6 marathons in the days prior, presumably, and you ran pretty nice, just a nice smooth run. Like really, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't look at my watch once. I had it covered, and I was actually running like 8.5, 8 to 9s in the early part of the race, which is something that I hadn't done all week, and yeah, just got nice and smooth. And these shoes again just did what they needed to do at that point. Last few miles I went really fast, and it held out on its own as well then.
So I mean, we all love the shoe. I love the shoe a lot, and I think we'll say like, yeah, what you got a limited budget, one-off shoe pick for the best marathon in the world. You're not going to use the Endorphin speed too. But if you are using one trainer racer for your marathon, or if you really, like you say, want a shoe that maybe you're not sure if you're going to go all out or not, it really is. But you're not going to get much. Like, I think I could run almost as fast a marathon this shoe as almost any other shoe, whilst also getting a whole load of training out of it. It's a fantastic shoe.
Yeah, I totally think that for a lot of people who don't want to spend 250 quid on a carbon shoe, who don't necessarily need to, you want to go and have a good idea that you're going to perform well on a marathon, but you're not sure you're going out for your absolute best. This is a shoe you should lace up.
Yeah.
Like one of those races where your training maybe hasn't gone quite according to plan, or you've just signed up for it 8 months ago, and you go in there and you know you're going to come in, a bit slower than your fastest time, and you just want something that's going to do a brilliant job, but you're not going to invest in some marginals.
Yeah.
This one.
I also say the other thing about this shoe is like if you feel like that going in, and then suddenly on the day you are performing well, this isn't going to let you down. Like you can still actually go and PB in it.
Yeah.
It's just next time maybe use a carbon one and go again even harder. But yeah, it's got so much going for it. And especially if you get it in a colourway that doesn't have checkered flags on it.
Absolutely, don't go for that.
Anyway, well done, Kieran. That I think is really interesting. I loved following it from a distance during my taper week for London, just laughing at it. Mainly the rain. I just go, oh, the rain. And I thought it was a really good, interesting selection of shoes you chose. That I think, like I say, showed different strengths and stuff. So
that's very tired now though. So I hope that has made some kind of sense today, because it's the morning after number 7.
Although I will say it's ridiculous that even at the end of a completely different video to all our normal videos, the conclusion is still by the Endorphin speed.
Someone else make a shoe that's like this, please.
Awesome. All right, brilliant, Kieran. Thank you very much, guys. There's going to be some more of Kieran's chat about his nonsense marathons, amazing but nonsense marathons coming up. So yeah, like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll let him get some rest now, I think.
Yeah, I'm off to get some sleep.
All right.
See you later.